Filip. So excited to be able to chat with both of you today. You are both working on building Tallyforms, which is a kind of Typeforms 2.0. And myself, having chatted to a lot of Catalan developers in the past, I know a lot of people are a little bit annoyed with Typeform. And I'm curious about how you guys came up with the idea of Tallyforms in May, and if you can share a bit more on the details on why you're deciding to build Tallyforms, as well as a bit more on your stories and bio.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having us, first of all. A great introduction, Typeform 2.0. I'm not sure if we would describe ourselves like that already, but that's a big compliment. Yeah, so we started with Tally in September. I think we launched our MVP, but maybe to start with the beginning. So we're a team of 2 people. I'm Marie and Filip. I have a background in mainly marketing, B2B marketing. I've worked for a couple of companies in Belgium, Ghent before. The last one was a digital product studio where I led a small team of B2B marketeers. We just built basically software for other clients. And Filip is the technical brain behind Tally.
So Filip, indeed, I'm the engineer behind Tally. And my previous experience, so I've worked in a bunch of different startups here in Belgium since I graduated university. And after being part of a few of them, I decided that I want to start one of my own as well. And that's how I started my previous company, Delta, which was a cryptocurrency portfolio tracker, which turned out to be quite a successful project. And after a few years, we sold it to Toro, which is like a huge investment company in that space. And since then, we started working together with Marie on different projects.
What were you working on before?
So before Tally, we actually had another project, which still exists today, even though its fate kind of changed through time. It's called Hotspot. And Hotspot is a platform which connects travel influencers or travel content creators with hotels, with the idea being to create promotion or marketing for hotels and places to discover for the content creators. However, we launched it end of last year, and as everyone knows what happened with travel early this year, we were kind of on track. We were growing and we were seeing good reviews and stuff like that. But then March came and everything came down crumbling, which put a hold on that. It basically didn't grow anymore, and we were in doubt, what should we do? Should we keep on putting our efforts into it or not? And it is from there as well that we started thinking about what else can we do.
Yeah, we basically needed to decide because we're both also full-time working on Hotspot. I quit my job in the beginning of this year before the pandemic happened. And the plan was to travel while working, which matched really good with the Hotspot ID. And we actually took a plane to Bangkok, and we had to come back after 1 week because of because of COVID. So that kind of sucked. By the summer, we realized that this was not gonna end soon. So we needed to find a solution.
What made you go from an idea in the travel marketing space to forms? That's quite a big jump.
Of course, as every startup, we had to use forms for various things, whether it was for asking our users for feedback or some sort of lead generation. So we've used most of the other competitors in the form space.
We kept on being a bit limited by the existing tools. Typeform is a great player, but not cheap for startups to use. Also a bit limiting in the form building experience. And Google Forms, also a great product, free, but just didn't look the way we wanted it to. Also doesn't have a lot of functionality. So that's how we came up with the idea of maybe creating our own tool. And Filip had in the past also already launched a tool once that was called Tally. Long story.
Yeah.
Was the name, was it also a form, or what was Tally?
Yeah, well, it is kind of related. It was a very small project. It was already a few years ago, and kind of like a weekend project where I needed a small tool which also looked good to create online polls. So of course there's a lot of those, but again, I was not satisfied with how they looked. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna code something real quick So I made it and I posted it on just product, and yeah, it became like the product of the day. And I was like amazed that people loved it, and I got a lot of messages and emails of people asking me, can we integrate it in our own product or whatnot? But for me, it was really this weekend project, so I didn't take it any further than that.
What worked well from that project that you then took into Tally forms?
Actually, a lot of the ideas from that too got translated into Tally of nowadays as well. But the biggest thing about that product then was that you, very similar to Tally nowadays, you ended up on this white page which just prompted you to start typing. And you created this poll in a very similar way as you create a Tally forum and right now, where you write your question and then add your options. And you didn't need to create an account from the start and things like that. And that's what people seem to love, that it was like you click the link and then you're immediately in the two, and like in 10 seconds you can already have your poll. And I think if we take this idea and translate it into basically forms as well, it can be quite powerful, because nowadays all form builders, you have to create an account first and then go through gazillions of steps and things to do first before you can actually make your form. That can be a first thing, Can you make a form in like 10 seconds without even creating an account?
Yeah, because it is a really competitive market. There's a lot of players. So we felt like there was a small space left for a new type of form building experience. We're also huge fans of Notion, and they also
Quite similar as well.
use the block building approach. So we really wanted to integrate that. And we do see that most of our early users now are also Notion fans, mostly from the no-code space. So that's resonating quite well. So I think combining those two ideas has delivered our first MVP and our now first 500 users.
Amazing. I want to come back to Tally forms, but just before I do that, I'm also curious about, I think in your Twitter bio, Marie, you have Chasing the Good Life with Filip. Yeah. And I'm curious about how you two ended up working together, because I know you also previously worked on hotspot.earth together.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah.
And also with hotspot.earth and with Tally forms.
Yeah, good question. So the Good Life project is the name of our company. And yeah, what does it mean for me or to us? Next to partners in our startup, we're also partners in life. So we've met around 3.5 years ago, just because we both live in Ghent before the whole startup cooperation happened. And our dream was to be our own boss, to do the things we love every day, which is building cool products and marketing them, and also being location independent. That's also why we decided to quit our jobs and to go traveling this year, which ended up a bit differently. But that's basically what the good life means to us.
Are you taking the IndieHackers approach, trying to bootstrap it and make a good income, or are you hoping to like scale it into, a VC-backed startup?
For Tally, we do see it more in the IndieHacker approach. We're bootstrapping everything. We're doing everything ourselves with the goal to see how far we can get. If we can make a living out of it, of course. We do think for Tally that there's a bigger future. So we would like to scale it next year. But right now we're bootstrapping everything.
And are you also taking the approach of building in public? Is that your distribution strategy, or how have you thought about distribution?
Yeah, we are sharing a lot. I don't think we're like literally building in public like some companies do. We do try to share a lot of our growth and our numbers and posts and communities on Twitter, on IndieHackers. But it came naturally because our approach in the beginning was to talk to as many people in the community, like creators, makers, IndieHackers.
No, I think it's more taking the community approach, where it's something that we've seen as well been done successful in other projects. And my previous company as well, community, like the crypto community is quite engaged. So it was very important to create this connection with the users and to become truly a community where people work together to creating a better product, because at the end of the day, those are the people that use it daily, and it is very interesting and helpful to listen to what they have to say. And that was something that we were like from the start, okay, we need to do that with Tally as well. So we made sure that, of course, we talked to the right people, but then we created our own Slack where the early users could join and we could create a conversation not only about, okay, this doesn't work and let's fix it, but also about what can be better and how can we make it better. And that has been very, very valuable for us. And we also see that those people that are there from the beginning really also become, they're not only faces anymore, like we almost interact with them daily, and that creates like a great connection where we learn a lot from them, and I think they become supporters of what we do. So it becomes like a small family.
What thing has worked really well that maybe you didn't expect it to work as well as it did?
Yeah, well, I think the community building has been the biggest part, just because those people are our promoters, our evangelists, our first users. So I think definitely that just gave us the boost we need from the start. It's also a close-knit community. So once you get to know a few people, definitely in the no-code space, everyone is super helpful and referring us to other agencies and inventories and newsletters and platforms that wanted to help us or write about us. So I think that would be number one. For sure, and I think it will stay like that as well for a while. Of course, the question is how easy it is to scale this approach, because it's very labor intense. You really just need to write to 50 or 100 people a day or a week to get feedback. Last week we were featured on Beta List, which also gave us quite some new users, which we maybe didn't expect. So we were also still planning a public product hunt launch, which should also give us a bigger boost. So there's a few of those partnerships lined up that we think will be really important as well. Yeah, I think the whole building a small community before you really launch in public will really help us, because we will already be backed by our first users, and we already have an audience we can count on, especially for things like a product hunt launch. And then we think after that, there's a lot of integrations lined up on our roadmap. So we started with adding Zapier, but there's so many tools that we can partner up with, which will also be a great lead source for us in the future. Yeah.
I think we're also definitely trying to, maybe contrary to like the startup mentality, we're trying to take our time and build the products in a way that we will be also proud of, even though of course the whole motto is we should be ashamed of the first version that you launch, and I think it was the case in the beginning. But right now we feel that still our community and our user base is quite small, but if we've received quite a lot of confirmation that at least what we are building is on the right path. So we feel that okay, before we really show it to like more people, we definitely want to have some more functionality to make us really like a viable alternative to the other products in the same space. And so that's why right now we're making sure, okay, we add all these things before we are able to talk to more people rather than the one-to-one that we're doing right now.
And I suppose with the indie hacking way, a lot of people tend to prioritize getting revenue. So I think you kind of see some of the creators who put out some content, they just put out the easiest product that they can and try to get sales on, like say Gumroad or any way that they can monetize. But Tallyforms definitely seems to be much more product focused. And I was wondering, have you guys set any metrics, or what are you guys focusing on, the key impact work that you want to achieve?
Yeah, so for us as well, as we mentioned, we are bootstrapping it. So revenue definitely is important to us as well. But indeed, we have definitely focused on the product because, as we said in the beginning, it is a competitive space. And in order for us as the product to have a chance, we do need to innovate not only on the product side, but also on the business side. And on that end, you do see there two types of companies. There's like Google Forms, which is entirely free, and then there is everyone else where the pricing starts from $30 to $40 a month and up. So also from the start, okay, we believe we can innovate on the product side, but how can we make also a different business model where it is not just the next form builder that charges $40 a month. So we were like, okay, probably there is a space between the free and this $40 window where we can work with. And that's where we focused with our Tally Pro. So Tally indeed is basically 99.9% free for, so everyone can do what you can do on actually most of the other form builders, even the $100 per month packages for free on Tally. But we want to offer some set of empowering features which are wrapped in the Tally Pro. And that the empowering part is important because most of the other products, they limit you, you click this button and it's like, yeah, sorry, this is going to be $30 a month. Where we want it to be more, okay, everything you want to do is for free. But if you really want to be empowered by being able to manage your forms with your team, for example, or removing the payment or the branding, it's only then that you would need the Tally Pro. So we do think that will help us to stand out.
But so the biggest part of the features is for free indeed. So we did focus on the product and trying to get as many users as we can in the beginning, and then to see how we can convert those to Tally Pro users.
And you're still quite early, but have you got people on the Pro stage yet? Did you say you're only 500 customers so far?
Yeah, so we have actually so we did a Black Friday deal last week, our first, where we experimented with a lifetime deal because we got quite a lot of requests for those. We did it really cheap because it was also kind of a test for us. So I think we have 10 users that are on a lifetime deal now. And then since the past few weeks, also 10 monthly subscribers. So around 1,000 people have played around with the product, but out of them, we have around 500 registered users. And of them, at this moment, 20 paying ones.
Is there a key metric that you guys obsess over at the moment?
I think it's definitely just users and forms being made. So the three things we look at the most is how many people have used it and tried it. Can we also talk to them and learn something? And then have they made a form, yes or no? And then the third thing is, okay, those forms that are created, do people actually share them and do they get responses? So also the number of responses received. And of course, revenue, it's also important, but because we're so early, we were more looking at, okay, with the business model we have in mind, what conversion of registered user to a paying user can we expect? And because of like the very freemium model that we have, I think we had something in mind about like 1 to 2%. I think right now it's a bit more, but it's also very early. It's difficult to say what we can expect there.
I suppose one thing to also think about is the virality factor. So with Typeform in the early days, it was very popular among certain, technology companies, certain VCs. And as a result of the Typeform branding, a lot of people wanted to try it out for themselves. And I think we see that also with, I don't know if you're familiar with the platform Hopin, who are running events, and also Clubhouse. At the moment, I'm on Clubhouse, and everyone wants to come on board because there's a network effect. Have you ever thought about who these early users or the people that are going to help you go viral are?
I think because we started with focusing on makers and indie hackers, which brought us into the no-code space. Those definitely were our first supporters, and they also created the network effect for us. So I think definitely that group for us can really help us a lot from the beginning. And there's a couple of tools that are just cool to use as well, and we're hoping to get Tally in that category.
There is a special feeling when you discover like this product that makes you like you install it or you open the web browser and it's so
Fun to
beautiful or
use.
fun to use that you just want to share it. And I think definitely I think Notion has this factor, and I hope as well Tally does, where you start so basic, right? Like it's this white canvas, but everything you type in it, comes out nice, looking beautiful and sexy, and it makes you feel good yourself because you did that. And I think this is a special feeling that makes people talk about whatever the product is. This is definitely something we want to do, and we put a lot of effort into really making our forms and our builder be that thing that wows you when you use it.
Yeah. Has there been anything that people have really responded well to that you hadn't expected going into it?
Yeah, I think a lot of features, because we weren't experts in the form building space. But yeah, we offer payments, so you can create your own payment form, which also for indie hackers or people who have a newsletter or just sell, for example, their own designed icon set, is really easy to use. So that has been a popular one. We're right now building the form logic, which makes your form a bit smarter, which has just been a very big request. And definitely integrations with other tools. We added Zapier as the first one because it gives you a lot more possibilities and you can connect with all the other tools you use. Also custom domains, something we don't offer yet, but we're planning to ship in January, has been very high on the wish list.
This is a separate question to both of you individually. What was the first profitable business that you guys did?
For me, it's my second startup adventure. I've always worked at other companies. So I would say Hotspot was the first. I don't have that much experience in the startup field, but for you, that's a different story.
Yeah, I've done a few different projects before that with different sort of success, but definitely the biggest story has been Delta. So the previous startup before Hotspot.
So you like Filip, you have like a lot of diverse experiences. I think you've worked at like web agencies where you kind of developed a bit more of e-commerce. Then you've created a startup around digital photo albums, as well as, worked in building, I guess, online real estate marketplaces at Relo. And then you created this crypto tracker, Delta. How did you go about deciding which projects to work on? Did you kind of see Blockfolio and thought you could do it better? Or were you in the crypto space already thinking about how could you be excited about the returns you're getting on the crypto?
Yeah, often mostly the products that I work on come from just the self, like I kind of want to have this too. It was the same with the photo album app. It was like, you're just on a trip and you kind of like want to have an easy way to gather photos together. So I was like, okay, doesn't really exist what I want. So I can just build it. And with Delta, it was in a way similar. We were Blockfolio users because that was the only product that was good at the time. But there was still things like it doesn't have this thing, and it doesn't have that thing, or it's like it doesn't look that good. So we were like, we can do something that is better and has all these things that we were missing. So that's what we ended up doing, and people seem to like it.
Are you able to share any of the metrics or details on Delta and the acquisition by eToro?
I think most of the stuff is public, actually, so you can see that. Depends what you are interested in.
Well, you guys worked on it for about 2 years. I was wondering, how long did it take before you knew you could be acquired or you could spin it off into something else?
It actually kind of started very quickly. It went fast because we were lucky with timing as well, because we kind of like started it in the first half of 2017. It was just before a massive rush of the crypto gold and everyone being all over it. So the moment we launched it, it kind of just started going crazy, and we had a lot of users very, very quickly. I think in a few months we were like it's over 1 million users. So people, investors and potential acquirers started reaching out to us quite quickly with crazy offers, but it was so soon that we also didn't really necessarily know if it was a good thing to even think about it. And we were at the time as also funded, so we didn't necessarily need extra money. But of course, with the progression of crypto, then we have a rough 2018 with the crypto market going down. So, which was also a negative effect, of course, on our business because it made things definitely more difficult. Of course, the months before that were very good, so we could sustain the business for much longer. But then somewhere, I guess it was 2018. The thing is, Delta is founded by 6 people. So we were like two initial founders, and then we joined forces with 4 more people. And we had a bit of like a falling apart there, which made things more difficult. And at the point we decided that it might be best for the company and the product if a new leadership takes over. And that was the moment when we decided it might be a good time to sell it.
6 people seems a little bit big for like a pizza party, and the pizza party.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Like, what each of the 6 people doing? It's quite a big founding team.
Yeah, everyone, there was a lot to do, so that was definitely not a problem. And everyone kind of is specialized in different things, so that worked. So it was not necessarily the problem that people could not work together or something like that. There was definitely everyone could do their thing and do it good. And did good, but it was more too many chefs in the kitchen, or like too many. What did you say about the pizza party? But indeed,
yes, if you have too many people and you can't share pizza, then it's too big.
Yeah.
Too many opinions becomes difficult to manage, and I think that's basically what happened for us.
So, did any of them kind of continue on with working with you after Delta? Have they been involved in like Hotspot or even Tally?
No, so what happened is at that moment, there was the decision indeed that we would like to sell the company. And it was actually me that stepped down together with one of the other founders, because it was part of a decision of what you want to do next, whether you want to work on another project or continue working on Delta. 3 of the people stayed and are still at Delta. So Delta is still a massively big product in the space. They are about to release something very cool as well.
And at the moment, you are kind of, I guess, transitioning into a different type of category. You're going into the no-code space, IndieHacker space. Do you see any other trends emerging from that area?
Yeah, interesting question. I think no-code is very interesting. It is definitely something that was on both our radars, and we've been following it, even though I think it has been coined rather recently.
But because the community here is still quite small, we weren't really aware of how big and popular it was becoming. So we were surprised by the power of the no-code community and all the tools being built there. In the companies I've worked at, for example, like no-code specialized agencies is something that doesn't really exist yet.
There's a few. I mean, have you guys seen web pages built on Notion?
Yeah.
There's a few. There's coming up, I think.
Yeah, lots of them on Notion, on Cart. There's so many tools now that you can use. Definitely just the idea that anyone can start a business by shipping an MVP super fast using no-code tools. You don't need to be a developer to validate a business ID. And I guess that's what makes it super powerful. You don't really need that anymore to just quickly set up a landing page or make a simple form tool or anything really. You can build your own marketplace.
Yeah, and everything is possible these days. And I think
there's no reason not to try something new.
Yeah.
Well, now it's so easy to get started.
But I think that the thing about the no-code is not that the tools were not there, because like Zapier, and platforms and Webflow or like Squarespace exists already for quite a while. So a lot was already possible, but it's just the awareness and really the community. Different kind of people show each other what is possible, and people get inspired. It's like, oh, did you make that with just clicking things around? Like, how did that happen? And this is, I think, the great thing actually about the no-code. It's really the community. It's not the tools. The tools were there already. Now people discover more and show each other how it can be done.
And so, because no code has really developed from people being limited for their ideas due to lack of knowledge about development, what do you think the next trend after no code might be? What things do you think they'd be limited other than lack of development skills?
Good question. Yeah, probably $1 million question as well.
Well, I guess there's development, there's also design. I guess the boundaries between all of them are blurring a bit. If you, for example, create your website in Squarespace or in Webflow, you can make things that look great without being a designer. You don't really need to know a lot about design to make something that looks attractive. Design is becoming more accessible to a lot more people, but it's kind of bound together with the whole maker space.
I think on the products or engineering space, lots will change. We think that engineers are afraid of the no code because it's going to eat our jobs. But it's interesting, like probably 5 years ago, there was like a lot of engineers that their full-time job was just making portfolio websites or landing pages and whatnot. Those people will have to, of course, change what they do and whether they become like a Webflow customization specialist.
I guess you'll see more specializations as well, because people literally hire no coders now, which is, to me, I always found it surprising to see like a job opening for a Notion specialist or a Webflow specialist. So it's just creating a new type of jobs of people who just specialize really in these tools, which creates a whole new world of job opportunities as well.
Yeah, and probably, of course, those people that before made, as I said, like landing pages or small websites, it can be a plus, right? It might be actually nice that those people that coded those landing pages now learn and master the no-code tools, but are able also to customize it if necessary somewhere, which makes them this like a super breed of full stack no-code, not developers, but what is the word?
So imagine that you had just finished university now. If you were to start from that point, you're 21, you've just graduated, but you wanted to do your own thing. You knew where the world was headed, you wanted to go into remote work. What do you think you would do first? Would you specialize in a specific skill, or would you try just go and start projects and doing ideas?
Yeah, I think I would have also chosen a different study. So I would have to go back a bit more, because I studied communication sciences, which is something very theoretical. You don't really learn anything during that course. I think I would choose a more hands-on education, something more to do with design and development. So I would also really have the skills to build things, because I've always been interested in that as well. And then, when I graduated, I started working for a big corporate media publisher in Belgium, where I did learn a lot, but I've always missed traveling, and I always thought I want to do something for myself. I want to see the world, but I never really took the jump. So I do think I would have tried it earlier to start on my own projects. But yeah, easy to say now, I guess, when we're in our 30s and getting old. Yeah, what would you do differently?
Yeah, like
you kind of did a lot of things already.
Yeah, but I mean, of course, an important thing when you graduate is that you don't have any resources yet, and then to solve that problem, which normally takes quite a while. But I think these days there's quite a lot of platforms and tools to help you not speed that up, but like do it in a different way where you don't need to go get the job in a big corporation. I think the way I would have went if I would restart things is definitely something like Fiverr, the platform way where you just make some money so you can buy ramen soup and things like that to be able to live, and then use the rest of the time to try to work on stuff, small projects, and try to create something that people like to use. I find the IndieHackers community, for example, very inspirational, where you see how other people do things and you learn. So
I do think working for bigger corporates, you do also learn a lot. We would approach what we're doing now totally different if we wouldn't have the experience that we both have in the past 10 years that we've worked. So I do think it's a plus to have worked in bigger teams, to have had some kind of management role, to face all those organizational and how do you scale a company. I think we've both been through those things. So that does give you a lot to use and to apply to your own business, things you might not have learned if you're just doing it the IndieHacker way. The combination of those backgrounds also helps us now to do things in a smart way and to grow the product.
Filip, so this question is for you because you have done, several things in the past, and you also previously just mentioned the hardest aspect after graduating is getting that resources. So going to that 0 to 1, how would you make your first $10,000 if you were 21 right now? What would the ideas be around that?
I think I would probably do some sort of freelancing. I do think it's difficult to start immediately with a project because you do need to pay your bills. And the beginning months of a startup can be very rough. I think that's why most startups also fail, is because in the bank X amount of resources, and then with every month the amount decreases, and eventually you do need to find a job, and maybe you're reaching a product market fit and making your business profitable is just around the corner, but you run out of time. So when you are younger, the running out of time is sooner.
I guess like for Tally as well, because our focus is now on getting more users more than on getting the revenue super fast. If we wouldn't have worked and have our experiences in the past and have saved some money, we wouldn't be able to do this. Definitely not the bootstrapped IndieHackers way. You would need funding right away, which would also make us build a different product because you just want to get that revenue as fast as possible. Whereas now we are able to focus more on the user experience and growing the user base. And then we'll see how we'll make it work and get more revenue.
Yeah, I think it's also difficult. Like, of course, when you just graduated, you do still need to build that experience of being able to create things or to sell whatever skill you have. No code makes that easier in a way. Right now, I think, in a good few months, you can already build a product, which I don't think was possible 10 years ago, which helps with, again, the whole runway thing, right? Because while before maybe you had an idea and you had to find another friend from university who can help you and he can code it, but also he's not very experienced, so it's something maybe that takes right now an experienced person like a month to build will take them 3 months to build, and these 3 months you run out of cash and you both need to go get a job, and then the project dies out. Now you can connect a few tools together and have a kind of a working product in 2 weeks, which allows you another 2 months and a half to focus on the most important part, actually, which is marketing it and getting people to actually use it. Because of course, when you build it, no one comes. You need to put the effort into it, and it is also something that is often
that has
forgotten
changed
about.
as well. I think, it's not just because you build a great product that you get a million of users. Like, people don't just come and use your product from the start.
Yeah, you need to knock on doors.
It's more important to ship something fast, something that has basic functionality, and then to try to find users and spend more time on marketing and promoting it, instead of spending a year on building the perfect product and then you still have to start. So that's again where the whole community aspect comes.
So just to wrap up, I'm going to ask you a couple short questions. So firstly, what is your favorite book or podcast or anything? What do you go for knowledge or entertainment?
I've been reading a lot more about no code lately because of Tally. The visualdev.fm podcast is one that I really like.
Is there someone you look up to and admire in terms of what you'd want to do with how they're living their life, or anyone you think they're doing it correct?
Yeah, a lot of people. For example, Peter Levels we've been following for a while. Also a self-made IndieHacker who travels and builds his own very simple products like Nomad List, and also builds it in public. So that's definitely a source of inspiration.
he has a special way of doing things, which I think is a lot of times very controversial. The way he does things can trigger a lot of developers, but he's very successful in the things that he's doing, and I find that very inspiring.
Great. Thank you for talking to us today. If someone wants to follow with what you're doing or reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I think the best way is to just follow us on Twitter, which is at Tallyforms, where you can also find our website, links to our Slack community, or just our email.
Lovely to speak to you.
Thank you so much for having us. It was a fun hour of conversation.